Mending group, so you've got Superwoman as Superman, and you've got the semi-naked guys, but this is a group baby guys, big guys. Asked if they cosplay with other people. Only 3% had never done it, and 44% do it 2 to 5 times a year with other people. And do they coordinate their costume with others? That was that gender bending group. And in fact, most people did, and the majority did it 2 to 5 times per year. So when they cosplay, they coordinate with others.
Well, I'm curious about that because that's something that I noticed more this year than I have, and I go to a lot of cons. This particular con, I've noticed that more than other cons, that there were more gender bending costumes that I've seen today. And yes, you can applaud this. Probably the most I've seen in general. So is there anything that you guys want to say about that in terms of the changes in society or culture? Or is there one?
I cosplayed as female Doctor Strange, and I'm a huge fan of Doctor Strange. I'm also a huge fan of Clea, and I would have cosplayed as Clea, but I didn't really like the purple pink 60s look, and so I thought, I like Clea, but I'm just going to change Doctor Strange into a woman and whatever. So I mean, to me, it was cosplaying the same character. I didn't care whether or not I was a man or a woman. I was Doctor Strange, and that's kind of how I feel about it. So, and if it's Shepard can be male or female, and so it's kind of because they made the game so you can customize it. So for Shepard, it's an interesting thing because they're both accurate. So.
Yeah, that's something I've actually noticed, that there are a lot of characters where I've looked at them personally and said, well, God, I don't want to be that girl character because of a lot of ways that women have been written maybe not so kick-ass in the past. So, I mean, you guys, do you have any opinions on that? Do you want to drag the microphone over?
I think I'm going back to more broadly what I was thinking of earlier when we were talking about wearing a mask and sort of gender bending is another way to sort of become sort of someone else. And I just was thinking that it's very interesting to me that the more gear and props and armor and stuff and masks that I have on, like the more restrictive stuff I have on, the more freeing it actually is. And so it's sort of a weird dynamic that all of this stuff covering me actually makes me feel more expressive and more like myself, even though I'm like someone completely different, even another gender.
I totally agree with that completely. As the more armor I have on, the more comfortable I feel. I can't wear costumes that aren't like armor or fully covered. It just makes me feel weird. I don't know what it is.
Well, talking about that and your mascot character, what you were sort of brought to the forefront by the Morgan Spurlock documentary. So what was it about this particular character that grabbed you?
Well, I loved the games, obviously, but Shepard obviously was a female that you could customize to look however you wanted, with a team of people that she was the leader. I mean, she was the inspiration for these people, and if you actually play the game, I mean, she's an inspiration to you as you play the game. What she stood for and what she did and the choices she could make in the game were really inspiring, and to me, I just thought, I wanted to work in the effects industry, so I thought, this is an homage to something I really love and appreciate, so I'm going to do it as best as I can. And that's kind of where our whole team came from when we were, and I also got everyone else to play the game before they got to dress up. I was like, you have to play the game. You can't dress up and not play the game.
I can't from here, but virtual high five. All right, Bill, so you turned this into an actual business.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that and the inspiration for that and how you got into it and how it sort of brought things to you.
Let's see, a year ago I met my friend Harrison. Everyone's probably seen his stuff from Bolton and Props. I met him at Dragon Con, and I was really into costume making, especially making props. And I told him, I was like, this seems like a cool thing to do as a business, which he does now, and he did then. And he said, well, then just do that. Just make that your business. And I was like, I could. Because before that, it seemed like a fantasy. I had a job at Microsoft, and everything was normal. But it didn't seem to me like that was something I could actually do. And he said that, and I was like, I could do that. And I kept making guns, like making Mass Effect guns, making daggers, and cool things I liked that I kept just vomiting all over the internet because I wanted feedback and I wanted that sort of inclusion with that community. And people just started asking me to make stuff for them. And I said, will you pay me to do that? And they said, sure. And every time I made a new project, I would vomit it on the internet again. And then more people would ask me to make something. And then before I knew it, I had more commissions than I knew what to do with. And I quit my job at Microsoft. Wow. And I bought an iPhone.
I do a ton of group cosplay, and that's a really interesting phenomenon because it's not when you go out by yourself and you dress up, it's brave, but when you go out with a group, it's a real incredible experience. So, what is it about the group cosplay that compels you?
Yeah, I mean, I have no real preference either way, but the
I've seen all your cosplay. It's awesome.
But going out with a group is both very fun because you can do a lot more with a group and you can take great group shots. But like that was the dark side of the female Furies, and but it also presents a very difficult logistical challenge when you're in a group, especially like that big. We went to the DC booth, to stand in one place and let people know that's where we were. So if they wanted to come and get a picture of us, they could do that. And it was a crowded show floor, and there was lots of people around. And to get into a formation where people could shoot everyone at the same time was really difficult. And then it's also difficult. You need helpers. Like I have a helper. To carry other bags and to, make sure nothing else is going wrong.
We call them minions.
Yeah. But no, it's a lot more fun, and it's really cool getting to see the whole evolution of a group, come together from the concept, whether it was from one person or a few people, and to see everyone's progress on everything, and then to see it finally come to fruition is just amazing. Andrea is doing another one with me on Sunday, actually.
Well, Dre, I actually wanted to ask you about that because I know what you do for a living, and is there sort of a disconnect between that, or is this something? Because I know there are a ton of people out there who look at cosplay in a negative way, and it's awesome. So, how do you balance that?
It's very challenging. I'm hoping that while I'm here, I can meet other folks that also kind of live in two worlds, and that my day-to-day life is not that, unfortunately.
Really?
Sadly. My career just doesn't involve the kind of stuff that happens here, and so I have a very divided, divergent life.
You should tell people what you do.
I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm a scientist at UCLA. I've got pictures of people like characters like Indiana Jones and Darth Vader, and I actually have people ask me, who is that? And so, it's very jarring. So my day-to-day life is actually quite different. And then I come here with you folks, and actually my role as a psychologist is sort of foreign and not really as relevant. And so for this 1 hour, this is like the 1 hour that my life sort of makes sense. So it's kind of challenging, and then certainly the public end of it. You can go on the internet, and my Huntress hole is all over the internet, which is
Has that ever actually been an issue for you?
I do try to keep it separate. I had a colleague just a couple of weeks ago pull me aside, and it was actually after a meeting, a professional meeting, and she said to me, I went online and I actually saw this Comic-Con thing, and immediately I was like, I was horrified. I'm like, what is she about to say in front of all these other colleagues? And she said, I saw a picture of you. And then my face I just went, oh my gosh. And she said, you're in a costume. And I'm like, why are you saying this right now? And later on, I sort of was polite and said, oh yeah, that might be me, maybe not. And awkwardly shuffled away. And then later I thought to myself, why was I so secretive? I was so guarded about it. Like, there was something, and maybe it's, Jenna, what you're talking about, sort of the media portrayal or sort of these associations about it. And I thought, what does this person think of me? And then I thought, well, what is it about me? Why am I so guarded about this secret that I don't want others to sort of find out? I want to be able to tell them. It's the secret that I get to tell them, or I don't get to tell them. That's sort of, you know, I have ownership over that. But I didn't. And so there was this sense of like, she just sort of unveiled me, you know, unmasked me without my permissions. It was sort of strange. I don't know, and I wanted to ask folks, like, do you feel like you have these two worlds that don't really work together? That your professional life is very different? Show of hands, maybe. Yes. Applause. There's more of us.
So I think this gets into the issue of how